I really believe in building brands and building a brand. That's your identity. It's your face. That's what people interact with. Start where you are. Start small, but do it properly. Do it with intention, and then always ask the guys that have done it before. I kind of get where the government is going, but also I'm thinking, why not open it up, right? I think we really truly need an EV industry in South Africa. We need a parallel industry that will say, okay, if we are forecasting X amount of EVs per year coming into South Africa, we need to generate or be able to generate X amount of electricity, and by virtue of that, the infrastructure around that. So look, it'll happen eventually, but I don't think it'll be at the pace that we've seen in Europe and other countries. For me, Porsche 911 GT3.
Ooh. Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the... Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Pat on Brands podcast with me, Pat Mahlangu. Today, another one bites the dust, as they say. This is a conversation that I've always wanted to have ever since I met you. Lerato Matebese.
Hey, Mr. Pat Mahlangu.
Those who love you, they call you Mateps.
Hey, man. And those who don't like me, I don't know what they call me. Under closed doors.
Those ones don't
behind closed doors.
Don't matter. It's seldom that we get someone who's in the publishing business, but also someone who, comes from a background of journalism. I think before we obviously unpack, the whole journey, I mean, you had a very illustrious career, one would say.
Okay.
15 years, now what, 20 years?
Just close on 20 years, yeah. I'll be celebrating my 20th year in a year and a bit.
But 15 years as a journalist.
Yeah, in the game.
In the game, writing about cars.
Yeah.
I know of a story of a Ford Escort.
Yes.
And that's white Ford Escort.
White Ford Escort, yes. Mark II.
Take us back.
Mark II.
Take us back.
So it's probably the year is 1986, 7?
Yeah.
Man, my dad comes home with this second-hand Ford Escort that he's just bought.
Sure.
His first car ever.
Wow.
And the interesting story, at the time, my dad wasn't working. He wasn't working at the time.
Okay.
So he was between jobs. He had just served his articles as an attorney and stuff. Well, as a training attorney.
Yeah.
But, hey, man, work was difficult, man. And my dad used to get by fixing shoes. He was a shoemaker. I know. It sounds weird and strange, right?
Sure. And yet he was a sort of a learned man.
Yeah. But he was kind of that guy that, you know what, I'm not going to wait to get a job. I will get in and make sure I look after my family and make ends meet. And I must say that's something that I've kind of taken and implemented in my life as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, this guy made things happen, man.
Yeah.
And he came home with this car that he was eyeing for quite a long time.
Wow.
That he bought at one dealership in Elof Street.
Sure.
And the interesting thing about that story is that he wanted to buy the car, but the salesman wasn't giving him the time of day,
Because he was a black man?
Yeah, that too, And I mean, it's a 1600 Sport. It's like the Ford ST of the time. It's what do you know about performance cars,
Hectic.
But actually, I come from a family of very car people, car oriented.
Yeah.
But anyway, to cut a long story short, he begs this guy to take this car for a test drive.
Yeah.
So he takes the car for a test drive. 30 minutes later, he comes back. He says, okay, cool, man. I'm taking this car.
Sure.
And that was it, man. And he brought it home. That was 1987.
Yeah,
thereabouts.
86,
87.
Sure.
And
it was home at this time.
Yeah, man. Home was Orlando West Extension.
Okay.
In the 80s. It was quite rough in Soweto.
Yeah.
But we had good fun, man, there.
Nice.
Growing up, just playing in the streets, man. And as we know, we're growing up in Soweto, man.
So what is special with this car?
It's a Ford 600 Sport, man. Like I say, it was the Ford ST of the time. So,
but so like for example, I'll give you a little bit of a story about myself. So my uncle had a Datsun Stanza.
There you go. There you go. You see, and you can remember Datsun Stanza, right?
Yeah. But also, what got me into cars was the fact that whenever it broke down, I would have to help him
fix the car.
Fix the
car.
Right.
And you learned how to get around and
that's how,
working on a car.
You know. But obviously the modern cars, I can't.
No, for sure.
I'm a carburetor. You know?
So Pet, I mean, this car, look, because I was into cars, right? It for black people at the time, it was a very aspirational car to have.
Sure.
So much so, actually, there were, I mean, we grew up around thugs at the time in Soweto. You know, there were guys who were actually stealing cars and stuff, you know. And this one guy came to my dad, and we knew this guy is a car thief at the time. And he's like, hey, I want, sell me this car. Like, sell me this car. And my dad was like, no, I'm never going to sell you this car. You know, it's like, no, please, man, you need to sell me this car. So it was one of those well sought after cars. It's
like what the Kusheshe is today.
This is before the Kusheshe era. You must remember, MK2, I think, came out in late 70s. So it was the it car of the time. Like when you had that Ford Escort, Ford Escort 1600 Sport, you were
with
the
white
man.
stripes.
Hey man. That car.
Black stripes.
Black stripes, white with black stripes, man. So you had that color, and then you got like a lime greenish color, and then there was this other like an orangey sort of peachy color. It came in very funky colors, but it was a well sought out car, sought after car. And man, the history of that car, my dad bought that car, and he kept it, man, until 1994.
Sure.
Sold it to his cousin, who begged him to sell him this car.
Hectic.
And sadly, 6 months later, that car was written off.
Yeah. Did it have a name?
No, not really, man. Not really. But for me, those were the fond memories, you know, of my kind of formative years. Why I love these cars.
Got you.
And try and find a 1600 Sport today. A lot of those cars have gone to the UK. The people in the UK buy them and take them to the UK.
Oh, interesting.
You could easily pay half a bar for that car in today's money. You know. And my dad bought that car for, I think, 2,500 rand at the time, or thereabouts in the 80s, which was still a lot of money.
Of course, at that time.
Relatively a lot of money.
So now, I mean, obviously, you school, you know. I'd like to think, growing up, especially in the townships, you always aspire to have a car or a nice car, but no one thinks of maybe I could be a journalist, you know, and write about cars and actually get to drive these cars and test them, you know, for a living.
For sure.
People hardly think about, you know, obviously maybe working for an OEM, you know, we just want to work hard, make money, and buy these cars.
For sure.
But you took sort of a different route. Where now it is part of your career. Where now you even have a business. You know. That deals with publishing cars. So take me through the decision, you know, to now pursue journalism, and you now being an award-winning motor journalist.
Mine is a bit of I think it's a convoluted story, but I think a lot of people can relate to, you know, these kind of stories. So I knew my life will involve cars at a very young age.
Interesting.
So when I was growing up in Orlando West, a lot of my friends were into soccer, you know. So if, the guys would aspire to have like a soccer kit, a soccer ball, all of that stuff. I wasn't really that guy. I wasn't that guy. I got my parents to buy me a go-kart, but one that you could pedal, like a pedal go-kart.
Sure.
Because man, I used to watch a lot of motor racing around that time. A lot of F1 around the time, and I just imagined myself becoming a racing driver one day. And that's where the passion really started. Visiting my cousins in Diepkloof Extension, I got to meet a very young, very passionate guy called Gugu Zulu. back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah. And man, we really gravitated towards each other because he loved cars, I loved cars, all our cousins loved cars.
Interesting.
And man, our aspirations really started there in Diepkloof, where we like, hey guys, one day we want to become racing drivers. Like, how do we go about doing it? And amongst kind of like our crew, Guguzulu was the guy that actually went on to become a professional racing driver, you know. And man, for me, the next best thing was to what else can I do in the space, And motoring journalism was quite something very attractive to me.
Is that what you studied, like motoring journalism, or just journalism in general?
Yeah. So my story, I'm actually a qualified software programmer. Hence, I say to you, my story is quite convoluted.
Yeah.
So I get to tertiary. I want to get involved in cars.
Yeah.
I really want to go and study journalism.
Yeah.
My dad wouldn't have it. He comes from that old school.
Oh, he's a lawyer by the way.
Yeah, he's like, no, man. You gotta go and find a proper job that's gonna pay you, serious. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this guy is really cramping my style, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I kind of understood where he came from. So, him and I finally had the conversation because I was chatting to my mom and I said, hey, convince this guy, man.
Yeah,
tell this guy that this is what I want to do,
Yeah.
He says, hey, man, I tried, man. I tried, but your dad says you need to be set up and at least have a qualification in something that's moving. And you must...
Something that's serious.
That's moving. And I mean, IT was becoming quite a thing at the time. It was the hip and happening sort of, career to go into.
I share a similar story.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah. I mean, also when I first got to UJ, I actually studied IT.
Oh, wow, man.
During that time, I guess it was, you see what AI is, machine learning is today. IT at the time.
Back then.
Used to be.
Yeah. So, that was a story. So, I literally went into a bargaining sort of discussion with my dad.
Yeah.
To say, okay, cool. You want me to do this qualification?
Yeah.
I'll do this qualification and I'll get qualified and get this qualification. But thereafter, I'm going to follow my dream. And he was a little bit disappointed, but at least I didn't just leave, and just drop out, because
so already you started having a tough conversation.
Yeah. No, we shook on it. We made a contract. And he said, I'll pay for your tuition. Wow. You guarantee me you get this qualification.
Yeah.
And then whatever you decide to do after that, I won't stand in your way.
Sure.
And man, that's how it happened. I qualified and went and looked for a job in the IT industry.
Yeah.
Ended up at Dimension Data there.
Okay.
Worked for about 9 months, and I was like, no, this is not me. Wow. This is really not me.
Yeah.
And by then, I was already writing stuff and sending it to editors in the country, whether it was Sowetan, the City Press at the time.
Was it stuff about cars? Or
it was. I was writing about cars already then, without any media training or whatever. But I had this burning passion, this burning passion.
Yeah.
And I kept sending this stuff, emailing, man. Man, I would take a taxi.
Yeah.
By then, I was staying, I grew up in Vosloorus.
Yeah.
Which is in the East Rand.
Yeah.
I would literally take a taxi and go to Carlton Center. Sure. And just sit there with a list of editors' email addresses and just send them this stuff.
Sure.
This raw sort of content that I didn't even know was going to make, make it anyway, a cut. Yeah. And I never got any response, right? I never got any response until I came across the South African Guild of Motoring Journalists. And I was like, okay, what's happening here? So, so I came across this institution that literally, it's an institution that looks after motoring journalists. And they had this training program there that's called the bursary program.
Oh, nice.
And man, I wanted this thing so bad. So
and you got in. Have you met some of the editors that you wrote to?
Eventually, some of those editors. You
guys have been sending you.
Eventually, all those editors I used to write to have gone on to become good friends and peers, actually. in the industry,
Hectic.
which is really crazy. It's insane.
Did you ask one of them to say, but guy, I sent you an email.
I did. I
sent you
really did.
emails
And bless his soul. And one of them was Steve Dlamini Kabini. A lot of people who are into motoring journalism will remember him.
Okay.
He was the motoring editor of City Press at the time. And we got on to become very good friends, like very, very good friends.
Sure.
Sadly he passed on in 2009 in a bike accident. But yeah, man, like I say, I really couldn't have asked for a better career.
Wow. So who did you start writing for? So you get this bursary, you qualify.
Yeah.
Do they place you, or you still have to hustle, to get a house that you that will write for? Yeah.
So how the program works is it's broken over 10 months, and each month you go to a different publication, motoring publication. Sure. So I mean, I went to the Sowetan. I went to Drive Magazine when Drive Magazine was still a thing. Went to TopCar, you name them, Cars in Action, all kind of magazines you could think of and newspapers that carried motoring at the time. Yeah, man, I went to quite a lot of them. And I was offered 3 or 4 jobs.
Oh, nice.
Before the end of my my stint as a purser.
So you were that good?
I don't know, man. I don't know whether these guys were blinded by something, but maybe there was something there that they saw. Yeah. Maybe just a rough diamond that needed to be polished a bit. But I think my passion really put me where I am, because I was really, really hungry for this thing. And also I wanted to prove to my dad that
this thing is gonna work.
I could make a career out of motoring journalism, right?
Yeah.
And I think at that time, man, there was very few and far between in terms of motoring journalists that you could look at and say, okay,
that looked like you also.
Yeah, exactly, precisely, right? Representation.
So how was it like back then? I mean, I can imagine you're also tapping into the space. There's hardly anyone that looks like you.
It was a different world, Pet.
You go to launches. There's clicks and you are just
no, it was a completely different world, and you had to go in there and introduce yourself to people. Not a lot of people were willing to know who you were,
Sure.
It is an industry of big egos, so you can imagine, there's some guys.
It's like that in every
industry, I suppose, right?
I mean, there's those guys who think are the lords of the industry.
But man, I knew this is a home for me.
Yeah.
So man, I got in there. I got a lot of no's, in terms of knocking on doors and stuff. A lot of no's.
Sure.
But I was very determined. I knew I had to make this thing work, man. And so eventually I found myself. So TopCar actually offered me a job. So the editor at the time, Dion Skuman, also bless his soul. I mean, these are guys who are my heroes, you know, from a very young age. And to hear a guy like Dion Skuman say to me, "Hey man, you've got something in you that I want on the team. I want to offer you a job, but I know you've got this 12-month bursary program and you're 4 months into it, but I'm willing to give you a contract now, and then you finish over the year, and then you come and work with us at TopCar."
Sure.
And man, and it was one of those things. Unfortunately, TopCar didn't happen for me because then subsequently the publication was sold off to Media 24, which then meant I'd have to relocate to Cape Town, and I just wasn't ready. You know, I just wasn't ready. A big culture shock for me, for a Joburg guy. First job and stuff. So I
can imagine even back then.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. So reluctantly, I turned the offer down. But then already Business Day, a newspaper had already offered me. So that was kind of like my sort of second option. I walked into that office or that newsroom the 8th of January 2007, and I spent about 13 years there.
Sure. Do you remember your first car review?
Indeed.
First one published.
Indeed. I know. Exactly.
Which car was it?
It was a very yellow Italian car.
Okay.
No, it's not what you think. It's not what you think, Pat. It was a Fiat Panda 4x4 climbing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't make those anymore?
I think they stopped 2015, 2016, they stopped making them. But that was my very ever first test car that was published, and my first story of a car that I wrote about. So every time I see that car,
what was the headline?
In the traffic, I don't know, something about keep climbing or whatever, but it had a play on the actual word on the car, because it was a Fiat Panda 4x4 climbing.
Yeah.
So it was something of that sort. I think I was talking about I think at the time it was the smallest 4x4 SUV you could buy.
Got you.
So I was talking about its 4x4 system and all of that stuff. But
so it was before even now SUVs or the mini SUVs are popular.
Yeah.
You know, it was during that time when those were not as
before
as
everything became mainstream, you know. Having a compact crossover SUV, it wasn't a common thing at the time. Yeah.
And the best car review yet that you've done, the best, should I say, experience, because obviously I had I have an interest in the industry, as
for sure.
And I have, been afforded, opportunities to be in the space.
Yeah, for sure.
And get to experience a car launch. And just to see how these car brands go all out and just giving journalists good experience. What did you say has been like, or maybe your first time on a plane overseas to attend a launch? Yeah.
Once again, I think this brand is probably gonna be etched in my autobiography when I write it.
Yeah. So there's an autobiography coming.
Well, I don't know, Pat. We'll see.
Petrol hit.
We'll see.
The story of a petrol hit.
Yeah. Nudge, nudge. Wink, wink. Actually, my first ever overseas trip was with Fiat.
Again, Fiat.
Again, I know, right? I know. So when the current Fiat 500, the modern Fiat 500 was launched in 2007, we flew to Turin, or Torino as they call it in Italian, the home of the Fiat. So we traveled there, man, to welcome this new Bambino, Fiat's little city car, and this was the kind of like the regeneration of the sort of the retro car.
Gotcha.
Just like Mini did with the Mini.
Yeah.
So there was an original Fiat 500 from the 50s.
Yeah.
And now they were remaking it for, the late 2000s. It was a big thing, man. I've never seen such a small car have such this big impact and character on Italians. I mean, everywhere we walked in Turin, there was a memorabilia of that car or a piece of that car.
Wow.
In the shops. Somewhere, it was like a big thing. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Interesting.
But yeah, man, it was such a dope launch.
Was that the time when your dad believed that there's something here? Look, my son got on a plane.
Man,
overseas, and everybody on the streets knew that Lerato is overseas.
Hey, man, and the first person in the family to go overseas as well. So it was quite a big deal, It was quite a big deal. But that was quite a memorable launch for me.
Yeah.
I mean, they even had a big bash there on the river.
Whoa!
And hey, man, they got Lauryn Hill to come and perform, man. That was sick for me. I was come on,
sure, come on,
come on. Yeah, so that was my very first sort of overseas trip. Yeah, in journalism, motoring journalism.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now you say almost, now 19 years, obviously, in the sector.
Yeah.
But 4 years as a businessman in the space.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the transition from being a journalist to now being a businessman in the industry.
I think for me, it felt like natural progression, right? Because I really wanted to expose myself throughout all sort of the tiers and the layers of what we do, right? I knew I would be a journalist, but then my next progression was like, okay, I need to work hard and become an editor at some point, right?
Yeah.
And as you know, I mean, those are still few and far between.
Absolutely. Unless someone dies.
Yeah, or so I that was kind of like the next progression for me. So yeah, when I was poached by a magazine to come and edit that, I jumped at that because I really wanted to understand how it works. Although I was already exposed because I was deputy at Business Day for their supplement, the motoring supplement. But I really wanted to see, taking the direction and deciding what goes into the paper, deciding what ad is gonna be placed and all of that stuff. Just making those editorial decisions. I really wanted to get into that sort of space, So yeah, man, that came about in 2018. I went and you probably know Driven Magazine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I edited Driven Magazine for close on 2 years. But while that was happening, I then got into this publishing space where I was like, okay, I'm working for this small publishing house and I'm liking this vibe of publishing. Like how do we go from having a concept of what we want to see from a content perspective, planning, and then putting the thing together, and then it's on the shelf.
Sure.
And I found that very fascinating. So I really wanted to understand, the entire process, the value chain. So yeah, man. And I had this dream of one day being involved in the actual publishing of a motoring publication.
Then 2020 happens.
Yeah.
You get to be the owner of, or one of the owners of TopGear South Africa.
Yeah.
How did the deal come about?
Man, this story is like I say, off camera. This is a fascinating story for me, right? So, when TopGear SA wanted to come into South Africa, this was probably 2011 or thereabouts.
Sure.
And the BBC was looking for licensees at the time, so publishers that could take this brand on, right?
Yeah.
So I was at Times Media at the time, which is I think now is called Arena Holdings. And yeah, so they were bidding, and Media 24 was also bidding. So yeah, man. So the publishers got us into this room. They say, you guys have been handpicked from all the sort of motoring people in the building.
Yeah.
We want you guys to be part of the new Top Gear team. This was 2011. I'll never forget it. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, So they told us, hey, guys, we're bidding for this brand. Yeah. And if it's successful, we want you guys to be the team, the new Top Gear South Africa team.
Yeah.
But yeah, sadly that didn't work out.
Hectic.
Media 24 obviously
won
the bid, and I thought, there goes my dream. It's dashed. It's gone. But God always has a plan.
Before then, have you met Jeremy?
Yeah. Numerous
Clarkson.
times. Even overseas when we go to these events, the guys are there.
Yeah. And how are they? Do they know you by name by now?
Of course, man. They were already big stars by then. I mean, I'm just a guy from South Africa. Man. I mean,
Yeah.
But they were quite cordial. When you introduce yourself to say, hey, I'm from South Africa. They're like, oh, were you at the Dome when you did the MPH show? Which was the big sort of show, the Top Gear show. And I'm like, yeah, I was there and stuff. And I had a very funny actually story that I shared with Jeremy once. Yeah. I had a test car cancelled on me because they needed that car for that MPH show. I was so pissed, man. I was so pissed. It was actually a Lumina, a Chev Lumina, a Chev Lumina V8.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to getting that car on test.
So you already had plans for it for the weekend.
Hey, man, you don't understand.
You're going to go to DK extension.
You don't understand, man. So when I got that call, from the fleet manager to say, hey, man, sorry, we need this car for the Top Gear show, man. I was pissed.
Sure.
I was pissed. But I actually shared that story with Jeremy, and he laughed there. Yeah. And he told me that, I actually burnt the tires of that car. I said, yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Yeah. So, no, they were cool guys. So, yeah, man, just as, God plans these things and the universe aligns.
Yeah.
My business partner and I, we were driving one day somewhere in Limpopo. I know it was like it was a Lexus launch of sorts. I think it was a Lexus RX.
Yeah.
And we were driving in this game reserve, and we just started sharing sort of plans and ideas of ambitions of what we want to do.
Yeah.
And we both agreed that we'd like to own our own, motoring magazine one day.
Yeah.
Sure. And man, that dream, we kept in touch all these years. I think this was 2015 when we had that chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and we kept in touch, and 2019 we started chatting up BBC.
Yeah.
After obviously the previous publishers lost their contract. We started chatting to them around 2019, and it was a long sort of 6 to 8 months back and forth.
Yeah.
But eventually...
Did you have to travel to the headquarters?
Not necessarily. Fortunately, everything was virtual and stuff,
what do you call this?
Yeah.
Emails
and all of that stuff, But I mean, they really wanted to make sure that if they do grant it, it's the right hands, right? Because they've been burnt twice already.
Sure.
And yeah, man, we knew we were playing in the big league now, and this was not guaranteed that we'll get it.
Yeah.
But
were there other bidders, or it was just you?
I'm not
As
sure
far as you-
actually.
as far as
Yeah,
you
I'm not
concerned.
sure, but I'm sure there were other bidders
Sure.
as well there. But at the time as well, I think the BBC was a little bit pissed off with our market that
Oh.
things didn't really work out, and they were maybe very, very skeptical about know carrying on in the
And
market.
now there's two
Yeah,
young
there's
black
these two
are
guys
coming.
have came, and we we tried to convince them, and that you know what, you guys need to give us a chance. And Feb 2020, we were granted the license, man.
But you get the license,
Hey,
yay, kumbaya, let's throw
hey,
a party,
man. That
let's
story,
celebrate.
man.
A month later, we have
We
a
all know
global
what happened.
pandemic.
We all
and we
know what
shut
happened.
down.
You know, the whole world shut down. I had already resigned from my previous job as well. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go nurture this baby.
Hectic.
And man, it was quite tough to get TopGear South Africa off the ground again as publishers. But eventually we decided to launch in September with the website, so that went live, and we've just recently now celebrated 4 years of that.
Amazing.
And then this beautiful baby.
So the website you had to create it from scratch.
From scratch.
So you didn't inherit anything from the previous publishers.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So
all you had, it was just the name.
That's the name. That's all we had to trade. We had to build everything from scratch. Yeah, we had to build everything from scratch.
And you have to use your own money to
everything, man. We invested our blood, sweat, and tears into making this brand work, man. And like I say, and I also like to thank my wife, because she also she believed in this dream. She knew how bad and I wanted this, and she supported me throughout, man.
Wow.
So we're really privileged and blessed that
it's still, 4 years later it's standing. But also I just wanna double tap on the brand. You know, because this is the Pattern Brands podcast, and we talk about all things branding and marketing.
Sure.
How important is branding and marketing in your business?
It's everything. Without a brand, who are you then? How do you define yourself? How do you introduce yourself to potential clients or whoever, you know?
Sure.
It's always, I'm Pat. Oh, Pat, what do you do? You know, and then the conversation goes that way. And, when you say, oh, I'm a publisher for TopGear, it's like, whoa, then you're like, okay, all right,
let's talk.
We really didn't pick up a lemon. It's quite a strong brand. So I think branding is extremely important. It doesn't matter what it is or what you're doing. I really believe in building brands and building a brand.
Amazing.
That's your identity. It's your face. That's what people interact with.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
So September 2020, you kick off the website, goes live.
Yeah, we go live, man. We go live, and then an interesting thing happens, because at the time we really thought digital was the thing to do,
the way to go,
the way to go, because everyone says, digital first, this digital
first. Of course, during a global pandemic,
exactly,
and people had to pivot to digital.
All of that, Pat. And then we decided to start setting up, sort of meetings to go and meet agencies, advertising agencies and stuff. And man, we were bowled over. We almost fell off our chairs when we came to present TopGear as a digital first. And
people wanted to feel.
They looked at us. Yeah, they looked at us. They were like, "No, guys, that's cool. That's dope. We like the fact that you've got a digital footprint. When is the magazine coming?" And we just looked at each other. We're like,
interesting.
Are we missing something?
Yeah.
But then
also that's during a time when a lot of
magazines went
were
under.
closing.
Yeah, they went under. They went under, and people didn't want to touch magazines on shelves because of COVID.
Of course.
So there was all these, kind of like stay away from magazines and
stop printing.
Stop printing. Don't touch magazines unless they're in a plastic bag and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd already started forward thinking to say, when we start printing, we need to start looking at packaging and all of that stuff. But just to double back, so the agency says, "Oh, that's great that you got a digital footprint. When is the magazine coming back?"
Wow.
And we looked at each other and said, "Okay, but we thought digital is." They said, "No, it's nice to have both platforms." Gotcha. And we were like, "Okay, all right, then we really need to start working on bringing back the magazine. But the plan was already there.
Yeah.
And we were the first sort of licensees to be granted both the digital and the print magazine. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been quite a beautiful journey.
Amazing.
It's been quite a beautiful journey. So yeah, the magazine.
But also, we used to collect magazines of cars, you know, and I think there's also a bit of nostalgia,
absolutely,
you know, in just owning a
TopGear magazine. Absolutely. And even now, Pat, I mean, I still get queries from people saying, "Oh, I'm missing that edition. Can you help me? I'll pay for it. I'll pay whatever. Just give me one in good quality. You know, I'm in Cape Town or I'm wherever, man." And you know, for me, it just says to me, myself and the team have to carry on putting this product out because there's still people who love this magazine.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, this is what we live for. Is we just want to make sure it's the best motoring magazine on shelf.
Yeah.
We don't compromise on quality, so even our paper quality it's just high up there.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've just said I would rather starve before I print poor quality.
I hope your kids won't starve.
Well, they'll have to understand. But yeah, man, I'm all about. I'm just one of those guys. I love good textures. I love quality. I love quality stuff. And yeah. For me, it's always been quality over quantity.
Yeah, earlier on, I think I interrupted you. You wanted to tell a story about this cover here, and I mean this particular edition.
Oh, this edition, yeah, man.
What's special about it?
So this was cool. So we were invited to Spain to drive the facelifted 911.
Okay.
The Carrera GTS.
Sure. But you also went to the Dakar.
Yes, the Dakar launch. Yeah, that's another story.
Morocco.
We're in Morocco. We're in Morocco.
Sure.
We drove the 911 Dakar, which for those who don't know, it's basically a Porsche 911 designed to go off-road.
Sure.
Believe it or not. And man, what a piece of kit, man.
Yeah.
What that car can do is just amazing. Like the engineering behind that car is just amazing. I've never experienced anything like it before.
Wow.
It's a sports car that you can drive on the road and it feels just like a 911. Then is
it a 4x4 or
yeah. No. It's actually got off-road tires as well. I mean, that's how serious this car is.
Yeah.
And man, the stuff we did with that car, it's said that, you know, the owners won't put it through that, but for me, it just displayed the engineering that has gone into that car. It's incredible. It's really incredible.
So this one, you're in Spain?
Yeah, so 911 GTS in Spain. It's Porsche's first hybrid 911. Oh. It's never been done before.
Sure.
So yeah, so we all went in there. They've electrified the Icon, the 911. It's gonna be terrible.
Oh yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah, you petrol heads. I know you like a naturally aspirated engine.
Yeah.
Rear wheel drive.
Yeah.
Manual.
That's me. Old school love of cars. School love of cars.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Porsche has done it again. And like I say, you know, they do things differently. Like I always say, Porsche engineers get it. Wow. They really get it. In fact, I remember a couple of years ago, I was in Maranello to drive the 812 super fast.
Ooh.
And I think after the launch, we had I had an opportunity to speak to the chief engineer of that engine, that 6.5 liter V12 engine.
Whoa.
So as we were, you know, stuffing our faces with pasta at the Maranello restaurant there,
all right,
I actually asked the guy. I said, "Look, this is totally off record, you know. Who are the best engineers? Like, who do you admire and say, you know, I mean, you are all peers, you know. I mean, Ferrari is right up there in terms of engineering. But I asked him, I said, you know, which engineers from which car company do you admire?
Yeah.
And he said Porsche.
Wow.
And that said a lot. For me, that kind of just said a lot to say, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Some of the best car engineers work at Porsche. And that's just how it is, yeah.
So how often then do you go overseas to attend these launches?
Quite often, Pat. Quite often. I have slowed down over the years.
Because now you're a dad.
I'm a dad. You know, I'm a husband. You know. But yeah, I mean, we're privileged to be some of the first people to drive these cars that come here. I've got a great team, man. I've got an awesome team. So they also get to go overseas and experience these cars and travel to
I've seen how
places,
hard
you know.
your team also works.
Yeah, you were there. I mean, you were there.
We did Speed Week.
Speed Week together, 2022. Yeah.
Touch on Speed Week, what it's all about.
Sure. So Top Gear SA Speed Week is essentially our annual performance car of the year. So we bring together all performance cars that were launched that specific year. We decide where we go. So there's a road trip element to go to wherever. We move around the country, different provinces. I think when you joined us, we went to Mpumalanga.
Yeah, in Dalstrom.
Yes, in Dalstrom, Mpumalanga. And we've been doing it now since 2021.
I'll never forget that. I think in my sort of life and experiences with brands, I mean, that experience was just something else. Mandla.
Mr. Mtakane.
Driving with Mandla
shout out to Mandla Mtakane. Mandla Mtakane is our racing driver, resident racing driver, and our chief sort of tester. And man, he's
man has a heart of, I don't know.
No, he's amazing, man. He's dope.
Brave.
No, he's dope.
I mean, I remember screaming like, I don't know. I mean, when you're driving up that hill.
That hill. In the wet. Yeah.
Audi S3.
Yeah.
Taking those bands at 180. It has something
it's amazing,
else,
right?
Yeah.
But then it also shows you the difference between a competent driver, which I think is what motoring journalists are, and then a racing driver. Because that guy's response and he's dialed into the car more than.
We should have him on this podcast.
Yeah, man. I think it'll be dope, man.
So that he could tell us.
Yeah, he'll tell you a story.
What goes through his mind when he's taking those bands at such high speed.
Yeah.
And like it's nothing.
No, I think it's gonna be a great story.
Yeah.
So we are planning our fourth installment of Speed Week now.
Nice.
Actually, next month we'll be going down to Gqeberha.
Oh, nice.
So Gqeberha, please look out for us. End of October we'll be in your city. Man, we're gonna bring in some cool cars. We're creating some cool content. Last year was the Honda Civic Type R1. That was pretty dope. It's a well-deserving car. I mean, it's really, really proper.
What's special about it?
It's old school. It's manual. It's front-wheel drive. It's a hot hatch.
So you and old school.
No, it's great. But we must remember, I might be the editor, but I've got a team that also scores and votes for these cars.
Got you.
And I think before Speed Week, only one member of the team had driven the car, not even myself. And he kept telling me, he says, we need to get this car in because we need to drive this car because it's special. It needs to be at Speed Week. And I thought, I've driven Type Rs before. They're great cars. I mean, how better can it be?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It did the things.
It's proper driver's car. And it was unanimous. Like everyone who drove that car said, this is it. This is a proper driver's car. So
do you think soon enough we'll start seeing an EV winning Speed Week?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We've started bringing EVs. I mean, if you remember at Speed Week 2022, we had one EV there, the BMW i5 M50. So I think we will start seeing more EVs coming. But which will be the first one to win Speed Week remains to be seen. But I mean, electric cars are a thing now. They are here, and
interesting. I mean, I think just today I heard on the radio in Norway. They say actually more than 50% of the cars on their roads are now EVs. Do you think we, South Africa, are we well underway? How long until we'll have 50% of our cars on the road being EVs?
A lot of things have to be right. And the reason why Norway and Denmark have such a big sort of penetration of EVs is because the government was playing ball with manufacturers, right? They were giving incentives for people to actually buy EVs. Whereas in South Africa, it's the complete opposite.
I know they tax
you. It's 8% over and above the Valorum tax, which is the normal tax on cars. And then if you bring an EV into South Africa, there's an additional 8% that you're paying, which then it just makes
incentivize people.
Exactly. And
it means now an average consumer now has to pay
Yeah,
higher.
astronomical amounts of money, for an average sort of electric car or average size electric car. And that's just legislation, right? And I kind of get where the government is going, but also I'm thinking, why not open it up, right? I think we really truly need an EV industry in South Africa. Gotcha. We need to start having an EV industry. It's the only way where we'll see EV sort of market growing. Gotcha. But globally, EVs have slowed down because everyone was just rushing because of legislation to get EVs out, but the infrastructure was lagging behind. So we were going to have problems where Pet wants to charge a car, I want to charge a car, and someone else wants to charge a car, and there's one charger for three people. You can imagine the frustration that could transpire from that.
Perhaps also that serves as a lesson for us if we are about to embark on this EV journey. To say there needs to be a parallel process, sort of.
Absolutely.
As we bring in these cars, or as we build them here, hopefully. Yeah. Then the infrastructure to support then also goes up.
Exactly, precisely. As you mentioned, we need a parallel industry that will say, okay, if we are forecasting X amount of EVs per year coming into South Africa, we need to generate or be able to generate X amount of electricity, and by virtue of that, the infrastructure around that. So look, it'll happen eventually, but I don't think it'll be at the pace that we've seen in Europe and other countries.
And I have to ask this question before I let you go, because time also is really...
Is that it, Pat? I mean, I thought we'll be here, man, for like the next 2 weeks.
No,
just chatting.
We're gonna have a part 2. With these things, what's your ultimate favorite car?
So I've got 2 ultimate favorite cars, really.
Oh, 2.
I would say.
Funny team, boy.
Yeah, but I don't think the one girl will be jealous of the other one, because the other one is older and the other one is fairly new. So
okay.
There. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, man, I think as a classic, people who know me know I absolutely, I'm smitten with the Opel Kadett Superboss from the 90s. Yes. Absolutely love that car.
Box shape.
Oh man.
What is it? 2-liter?
It's a 2-liter 16 valve, with a 20xe motor. It's built by Cosworth, by the way.
What?
Yeah, it's a special thing, and what some people don't know, it's actually a race car. It was a race car first before it was a road car. So it was built to solely go racing, and for homologation purposes, they had to build 500 of those cars, road going cars, so that they qualify to go racing. So that's why I'm saying there's quite a big motorsport history behind the Superboss, which is, and absolutely,
but can you still find it?
They are in hands, but they are expensive. Like, people are restoring them, but I'm seeing a lot of them going overseas, which is, it makes me cry a bit, because that is a South African car, and I would love. That's why I say I'd love to buy. They go? The UK mostly.
Oh, because right-hand
drive. So Australia, UK. So a lot of the cars are going out there, but we need to preserve that history. Yeah. So
where were they built?
They were actually built in Gqeberha, which was formerly East London. The GM plant there. It was called Delta Motor Corporation at the time. Yeah. Locally built, man. Locally, that car is as South African as. Yeah.
Interesting, and it's crazy that it doesn't feature much in terms of our heritage.
Yeah, look, I mean,
like obviously, the
BMWs and stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But I mean, that's the kind of history and the stories that we want to tell to our kids. Yeah, and they call that car a Superboss for a reason. I mean, it still kicks butt today. I mean, you can just imagine when you drive that car now.
I remember seeing one, I think we were attending the Cars Awards.
Yes.
At the Kyalami.
Yeah.
And everybody just made
it was crazy,
noise.
Man. Yeah, and shout out to Sentimental.
Yes,
who let us drive that car. Yeah. And, man, for me, it was just just brought nostalgic feelings driving an old school car like that. And even today, it still feels fast, that car. Yeah. So you can imagine a car that was built in 1991. And well into the 1920 when I last drove that car, and it still felt quick. So it's a special car. And then
how does it compare? Sorry, I'm just digressing a bit here. How does it compare to the Opel Astra 200 IS?
So the Astra basically was the next generation. So the Astra was basically based on the Opel Monza and the Cadet of that time, because they're still considered the T car. So underneath the Astra and the Cadet of that generation, the 200 IS and the 200 IE, I think, in the Astra. Essentially, they are an Opel Cadet and an Opel Monza underneath.
Interesting. I remember the police used to have the yellow ones.
Yeah, and a lot of them used to wrap them around the poles because they were quick. They're fast cars, but they didn't stop well. They didn't stop well. So but I love them, and I love Opels of that era, and it's quite sad that Opel is not a performance brand anymore.
But I saw the new Corsa, I think.
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute, but where's OPC? You know, the OPC brand was huge in South Africa and around the world. And they've just went and killed it. It's no more.
Okay.
But thanks, Pat.
So the new one. You said
that's simple. Old school.
There's a Skogo one that you like.
And the 2000.
The 2000.
Hey man, for me, Porsche 911 GT3.
Ooh.
I'm
also a Porsche.
I've driven a lot of performance cars before, like a lot.
You once took me for a spin, excuse me, in a Targa.
Yes, I remember that. I took you to spin in the Targa. I remember that.
I'll never forget.
That, so Porsche 911 GT3 for me, that is the ultimate sports car.
Okay.
That's the one for me personally. That's what I would buy.
So the Cadet will be your project car.
That'll be my old school Sunday sort of drive. I take it to cousin coffee or like the classic get-togethers. That's the kind of car. It's that kind of car. And then when I want to go and play on the track or a mountain pass somewhere, then I whip out the GT3.
That's the life.
That's
the life we all dream of.
We can only keep dreaming, eh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'd like to think that, 20 years in the game, in the industry, you're like an OG. You've seen them come, you've seen them go. There's a lot of young people watching this,
Sure.
like, for example, I also got into, I'd say, I got into the industry by sheer luck and I'd say chance. Growing up, obviously, I loved cars. I wanted to work for BMW, but from a marketing sort of perspective.
That's cool.
When I went to Germany, when I was on an exchange program to Germany, we had an opportunity. So we're based in the Baden-Württemberg state.
Yes.
So we went to the first Mercedes-Benz factory in Sindelfingen.
Man.
We also went to Stuttgart.
Well, of course, the home of Porsche and Mercedes,
So it was really,
that's so cool, man.
an eye-opening, experience,
so cool.
and I guess that reignited, the love again. But obviously the entrepreneurial part also
bit you, eh?
It'd be like, I'm not gonna work for anyone, but somewhere, one way or the other, through our platform, Pattern Brands, we're able to say, hey, we also do this motoring.
Well done, man.
Motoring thing, and that's how
you came into the industry.
I got in, and I know obviously with intention, one can obviously grow as you know.
For sure.
But there's someone who doesn't know, like where to start, and who's got like great ambitions. But also, I'm well aware now that times have changed.
They have.
Somehow you don't need the guild anymore.
They really have. Yeah, no, for sure. And
we've got content creators. The likes of Porsche, the likes of Ribas. Riba. That Kulegani on Wheels. I think they also started off online. Not so much mainstream.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, someone who wants to enter the industry.
You know what? I think now it's much better. I think the barriers of entry are not as terrible as they were, because like I said, when you started, you had to associate yourself with a big title for opportunities to happen and for people to listen to you and all of that stuff, right? But the beauty now is that you can start where you are.
Sure.
You just need a decent smartphone and a few things, gadgets, and just try and just get out there and try. And I've always said to people, even review your own family's cars. Start there, because what we do, or I'd say the stumbling block that the young guys want to do is, I already want to approach the manufacturer, like Porsche, you must give me a car. But without thinking, it's an investment for them. It's a 4 million rand car.
There's petrol,
there's
all
of that stuff, right?
And
then there's a risk as well. I mean, if we haven't seen your work and what you can do, or your capabilities behind the wheel, because that's another thing that we don't.
I'm so sorry.
We don't consider.
I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Because there is a story of was it a lady or a man who wrote off a Ferrari and even wrote a book about it?
Oh man. That's you'll bring them. They're a good friend of mine. You'll bring them on the podcast. But that's
their story.
That's their story. I think they'll tell it. I mean, they even wrote a book about it. Just to show you. But things happen. But that's what I'm saying. Just start where you are. Start small, but do it properly. Do it with intention, and then always ask the guys that have done it before. Because that's very important. You might think, experience, I know how to do things.
Of course.
But I've been around the block quite a lot of times.
Yeah.
I've been there at print when digital started. I was there when the transition happened, So my door is always open for people who are really intentional about the industry.
Yeah.
And not just do it for the sake of likes, or I'm going to have access to cars. For some of us, it was never about that. It was really trying to make a huge impact, not just on ourselves, but those who look up to us and say, one day I'm looking at Pat, and I've seen Pat's journey, from being a cub journalist at a newspaper to owning TopGear South Africa.
Sure.
There's a lot that went into that. So my door is always open, man. I mean, you can follow me on social media.
That was going to be my next question in terms of, how can people
contact you? Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm on all social media platforms. Lerato Matebese, very, very straightforward on all Facebook, Instagram, and X. And yeah, man, you can always send me a DM. I'm willing, man. I'm at that point where mentoring is the thing, man. Mentoring is the thing now. I've done it. I've seen it. I've got the T-shirt. I bent it, and now it's time to give back. So yeah, let's do this.
Okay, cool. Now is the time for the infamous Pat on Brands quiz.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I don't know what you're going to ask me. I'm a little bit nervous.
Say again?
I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know what you have in store for me.
Yeah, so we just want to test your knowledge.
Okay.
About brands.
Yeah.
Nothing too sinister.
Okay.
About this thing, So let's see how you will fare. Are you ready?
Let's hit it, Pat. Let's do it.
Yeah. Which one of these brands that I'm going to mention, right, did not showcase at New York Fashion Week? Are you South African brands, that is, were at?
Jeez. It can't be a Maxhosa because they've got...
No. Let me... I'll give you options. Okay.
Okay, so it's a multiple choice. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Top South African clothing brands.
Yeah.
3 of them were at New York Fashion Week.
Yeah.
And one of them, the other one is not. So, Maxhosa.
Okay.
Munkus. Naymil.
Okay.
Or Tsepo.
I think Tsepo wasn't there. Am I wrong?
How do you know?
I don't know. That's probably a wild guess. But I mean, I saw a glimpse of who was at New York Fashion Week, but Tsepo was not the name. So I could be wrong.
Okay. Tepo is correct. You get a pet.
Oh, dope.
You get a pet. Netbank.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they recently appointed a new CEO.
Please don't ask me who their name is.
That's the question. I mean, it was all over the news. You know?
Boy.
It was all over the news.
Yeah. Are you gonna give me some clues though, or at least
I'll give
some
you
names to choose from? I think I might be able to.
I'll give you some names to choose from. Right? Was it Mark Brown? Jason Quinn? Jacques Sellier? Or Hepin Chingil?
It's between 2 and 3 because number 1 is the outgoing CEO. That I know for a fact.
Mark Brown.
Yeah.
So Mark Brown is out.
He's out. Hepin Chingil is definitely out as well.
Why?
Because I know fully well they're not.
Okay.
The CEO.
The CEO, yes.
So it's the two names, number 2 and 3. Can you just repeat those names again?
Okay.
The ones that are left, just the ones that are now left. We've eliminated the other 2.
So we're playing a process of elimination. Jason Quinn?
Yeah.
Or Jacques Sellier?
Yeah, sorry, my NetBank people, but I'll go for option 2.
Jason Quinn.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
That's the name that seems to ring a little bell in my head.
You get a pet. Jason Quinn is the new CEO, former CFO of ABSA.
Yes.
So he came from ABSA and joined.
NetBank. Okay, cool.
So which of these American cities that Nando's recently opened a new store in?
Okay. Let's hear the options.
Recently, when I say recently, I mean
like last week.
In August, a month
ago.
Towards the end of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Is it New York?
US city.
Yeah. So now very geographic.
Yeah, sure.
Specific.
Sure. Okay.
Is it New York? Is it Atlanta? LA or New Jersey?
Jeez. I'd say take a wild guess. I'd say Atlanta.
You're damn good at this guessing business. Hectic. Have you always been like that?
I used to doubt myself a lot at school. But a lot of people used to say I've got a very retentive brain and mind. I'm very good at picking up things. I remember cars I drove 10 years ago. I can tell you, I can write a story now about a car I drove 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You were at the Festival of Motoring.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
Which car? This one's going to be very easy for you.
Let's hear it.
That was the biggest highlight.
Okay.
For many people. And now this is obviously assumption based, but
many people. Okay.
That VW brought. That was the talk of the show.
My man.
Outside of the launch.
There can only be one, eh? It's the VW ID Buzz. That's the one.
That was a giveaway.
Why do you say that?
Because it was easy.
No, but VW had a couple of things there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The ID Buzz. What's special about it, in your view?
Man, I look, for me, I've always liked the Caravelle, right? It's always been a thing. I mean, we grew up with caravans.
Oh, yes,
Before the V-Class was a thing. I mean,
there was a
V-Class. This is a Karakara, right?
Yeah.
So for me to see them just keeping that combi, that look, that design going into the future.
Yeah.
My man, that's just, for me, just like, just VW, just bring this thing here, man. You know, just bring it, you know. Yeah, man, just seeing it in the flesh. I saw the pictures and I was like, I like this thing. But seeing it in the flesh at FOM, man, I was like, I can see myself rocking this thing, man.
This is it.
Yeah, I can see myself rocking this thing. Yeah.
Lastly, last question. How many branches? I'm gonna give you a range.
Okay. Branches, okay.
Does Batu have? Or stores?
Yeah. Okay.
Between 10 and 20, between 30 and 40, or 80 and 90.
I know. I think Mr. Baloy has pushed, eh?
Yeah.
I remember reading something and I think I was taken aback by the number of outlets that were there, because at the time I thought that it can't be like, it should be less than that, or maybe it was just a perception.
Yeah.
So I'd go 80 to 90.
80 to 90.
Yeah.
You have faith in the man.
Okay. All right. if I'm wrong, Mr. Baloy, please, I'm faith to you gotta pump, brother.
Because
I'm
sure.
Yeah, you gotta push.
Ash, unfortunately, the last one threw you off.
No, that's fine.
I threw you off at the bend.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. What's the correct answer?
They actually have 34. So
okay.
Between 30 and 40.
Cool.
But,
That's still impressive. That's still impressive.
It's very impressive. The man has worked really hard.
No, shout out to the Batu team.
The brand has grown.
Shout out.
Mr. Matebese, we can talk until the sun rises.
I know, Pat. We need to have a part 2 and 3.
Of course. As you progress, as you write that bio, as you perhaps get more or start new publications, then you can come chat about it. Any parting shots to your fellow industry people?
Yeah.
You know, that are watching this right now.
Hey, man, I think, for me, it's just to say, it's we're still living in uncertain times in terms of the industry itself. The industry is still a little bit, depressed, but I really think we've hit the bottom now. Things are slowly going to gradually come up. I think this interest rates, hopefully on Thursday we get good news.
Yeah.
I don't know when this podcast is going out, but anyway.
It'll be right after.
So hopefully we'll get some relief there. But all I'm saying is, if we can survive COVID and survive these tough times and all of that stuff, when the tide changes, we're gonna flourish, guys. So let's keep at it. Let's keep the industry going.
Yeah.
I know it's tough. People are trying to lay off people at factories. It's really tough, but we just gotta keep pushing. Yeah. Let's keep supporting each other, guys. I mean, TopGear wouldn't be there without the industry I work in, and vice versa. But I think a lot of collaborations need to happen now. We all need to just claw together and push together.
Awesome stuff.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matebese. You're a great spot on the quiz. But also you're a great guest in terms of just you opening up and graciously, sharing your journey with us.
I appreciate it.
And I hope someone, was listening, was taking notes, and they were inspired by your journey.
Cool. Thanks for inviting me, Pat. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and comment. That's how we grow. And this podcast wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Lerato Agency, an agency that crafts brands that people love. And of course, 1-2 Creations, on the production side of things. For me, Pat Mahlangu, iti inakhailale.
Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the